Okay, everyone. Okay, so we left it 5 minutes. I'll let any more stragglers come in as they come along. As per the usual evenings that we do here, if you want to ask any question, you can unmute your mic and be courteous to everyone else and ask your question. Or if you don't feel like you want to say anything publicly using the microphone, feel free to put any questions in the chat window, and myself or someone else will try to ask any questions or anything on your behalf. Feel free to share any links or anything in the chat window there as well. And you can download the chat window files at the end of the night if you want to. So this evening, we have John Cook and Pam Coronado from Irva, the International Remote Viewing Association. They're going to be here tonight to answer your questions and give you a brief overview of Irva. And then we can discuss what Irva has been doing, what it's doing now, and what it's going to do in the future. And you can answer any questions that you have. So what I'll do is I'll pass it over to both of them to give you a little bit of a presentation. We can take it from there.
Great, thanks everybody for coming, joining us, and having us here. I am going to do a few slides just at the start to set things up, and let me get that shared. If you've got questions that come to mind during this part, we won't be able to see the chat because the share thing kind of takes over, but feel free to unmute yourself and holler if you see anything. So we're going to show you a few slides just to go over some stuff about us and take you on a bit of a tour of the website, and then we're wide open. So my name is John Cook, and I'm the current president of Irva, and Pam Coronado is here, and she's the VP. And we are with the International Remote Viewing Association. So what is that? Some of this I think you'll have seen because it got pasted into the chat as well from the website. Daz did a great job of putting some links up there. So we're a US-based nonprofit of the kind that is the 501c3. So you can make donations and get tax credits if you're in the States. But we're dedicated to promoting the responsible use and development of RV. And we are an independently formed nonprofit member organization of scientists, remote viewing pros, students, and other interested persons. We got that just to cover everybody. You can join us just if you're interested. And some of the material that we have, we offer free to try to educate the public about the nature and uses of remote viewing. And some stuff we make available to members who are supporting us as a kind of a way to keep the lights on and keep things going. So why did we need to have something like Irva? So after things were declassified, that the US government had been spending money on doing a project involving remote viewing and psi in 1995, there was lots and lots of bad information circulating. And some of the folks that were involved in some of the early research and applications figured that they better get together and try to set the record straight. So March 18th, 1999, group of folks meeting in Alamogordo, New Mexico, created Irva. And the primary goal is to provide an unbiased approach relative to everything about RV: information, training, research, and education. And these are the folks that were meeting there. And we've got left to right Hal Puthoff, who co-founded SRI's RV program, David Hathcock, who was an organizing facilitator and funded that first meeting to get everybody together, John Alexander, US Army Colonel, Special Forces and Intelligence, Lynn Buchanan, former US Army remote viewer and trainer, Paul Smith, former US Army remote viewer and trainer, Skip Atwater, who is the former US Army RV Unit Operations and Training Officer, Dr. Angela Thompson-Smith, who is here with us today as well, RV researcher, author, and trainer, Marcello Truzzi, professor of sociology at Eastern Michigan University, and he's since passed away. Russell Targ, seated in the front there on the left, co-founder with Hal of SRI's remote viewing program, and Stephen Schwartz, an author and remote viewing researcher. And so this is one of those photographs taken by Robert Knight, there was a number of really cool black and white shots of luminaries from the field from around those times. Our current board of directors is these folks. There's myself and Pam, Dale Graff, Bill Higgins, Deborah Katz, Sean Mahoney, John Noble, Dr. Angela Thompson-Smith, and Nancy Smith. So these are the folks that you'll see at conferences and doing stuff. Bottom line stuff, just to say, this may seem cool, but we're completely volunteers. There is no, if I got 1,000 people to sign up tomorrow, I would get $0. There's no financial benefit to any of us. In fact, I think Pam and Angela would agree that it's probably cost us a substantial amount of money to be involved with Irva, because there's just stuff you got to do. But we're in it because we care about the integrity of the field, and we care about introducing people to the field and giving them good information. And that keeps us going. And the membership fees and donations that happen keep us afloat. They help us fulfill our mission. There's a couple roles that do get paid, contractors that do like front office type stuff and assist with putting together our magazine. But as far as the rest of us go, we're just doing it for fun. Elephant in the room stuff, because I know some of you folks are new to the field and some have been around for a really long time. If you've been around for a long time, you'll know that the history of RV includes a lot of personality conflicts over the years. And to be blunt, going back a number of years, Irva and some of its folks have not always navigated that very constructively. That's my subtle way of putting that. And so a big part of what we've tried to do over the last number of years has been to build bridges, fix bridges, and also try to transform our internal culture to be a more positive environment for members and for people that just might interact with us. We are not, despite what it might seem like, a methodology-specific organization. We are very much a protocol-specific organization. So if you're new to the field, the difference in the two terms might trip you up. Methodology is the way that you do, or the sort of technique that you use for remote viewing, whether you're doing CRV, which is extremely a popular one and represented by a lot of our folks. You could be doing HRVG, you could be doing SRV. There's all these different kind of versions of the RV process. And then there's versions that are just completely natural or sort of unstructured. And there's folks that do a lot of stuff that way. Protocol is what makes remote viewing different than other kinds of sci stuff. Protocol sets it up where you're effectively almost doing a controlled experiment every time you do an RV thing. So you actually come to it with an intention to, we're actually doing something now. Typically the person doing the viewing is blind to what the target is. The gold standard is that there should be feedback at the end to know how it worked and so on. But that's the protocol. That's very specific, and in defining RV, that's a hill that I'm happy to die on, defending that. But methodology is very different. And then there's this famous quote by Joe McMoneagle that if you were to be able to stand on your head in a bowl of split pea soup and whistle Dixie through your left nostril while generating good RV data in protocol, he's happy to call that remote viewing. And although I don't think we've had anybody take us up on actually doing it that way, maybe one of you would like to try. And our focus is RV, not RV and. So there's a whole load of different things that have kind of gotten attached to RV or sort of subspecializations of RV. And we do address those and in presentations and in our magazine and stuff, go into that stuff, but we're not focusing really on any of those. The actual core thing of RV is what our mandate is to promote and get people aware of. So what kind of things do we do? We run conferences is one thing. We've run 16 since we started. We publish a magazine called Aperture, and This may be news to some of you, but just in the last week, we've rolled out new membership benefit structures and stuff like that. And Aperture is now free, period, to everybody, whether you're a member or not. You can browse all the past issues through the website, and I'll show you how that works in a bit. And that's how it's gonna stay. And in fact, there's we haven't had one published in a while, but we've got a new one coming out very shortly. We have a members only discussion forum. This is on our new recently rebuilt website. The famous CIA archives is hosted on there, and it's not just a dump of all the information. It's actually been put together with a bit of description around it and some guidance to point you at different documents and stuff that might be interesting. We run a every so often, I would like to say annual, but it just doesn't work out to annual all the time. There's a thing called the Warcollier Award, which is a grant award that folks can apply for with a sufficiently good idea for remote viewing research, and we pick one project that gets funded to the tune of $3,000 US. Every time we do one of these, there is a round going on right now, and if you've been holding out on, you've got a great idea. If you submit it by April 4th, you've got some chance of being seen there. That's stuff that you can find on the website as well. We run Focal Point, which is a target practice service. Board member John Noble runs that, and there's, I believe, a target every couple of weeks on there, and there's a little mini discussion forum where you can share your results and people can, you know, celebrate or commiserate their results, depending. There's a new thing called Irva Research Unit in the last year that meets monthly, and that is kind of a thing that if you don't feel like you're maybe up to the point of putting in a high quality research proposal for Warcollier, but you want to kind of get your feet wet and learn about research and maybe actually get yourself in the direction of doing some kind of grant research. This is a group that meets and looks at stuff and discusses, you know, experimental designs and how all that stuff works. And very new is that we are going to start running education programs for members, where there's going to be some workshops that members have access to join live and learn some of the basics of things, or to kind of dig into specific topics. We don't even have a lot of detail on this yet because we just decided in the last month that we were doing it. So in the next conference, some of us were chatting just earlier on before the call started, is hopefully going to be this year. We are absolutely planning on doing this in person at the Omega Institute in upstate New York. It is going to run September 9th through 12th. And so far, we have the following folks that are going to be joining us to speak. We got Lynn Buchanan and Laurie Williams are going to do a talk. Pam Coronado and Bill Ray are going to do a talk. Patty Gallagher will do a talk. John Kruth from the Rhine Institute, Dr. Angela Thompson-Smith, and Dr. Paul H. Smith will do talks of their own. Tom McNear is going to be joining us, which is a great treat. And Russell Targ is going to be joining us. Plus, of course, we'll have the usual Outbounder stuff and all that stuff that we do every year. You can't read this. I know you can't read this. Don't stress about it. I'm going to show you on the other website. But there is a membership, a tiered membership thing. There's a ton of stuff that's available to everybody who's a member at any level. There are some benefits that come in at the higher levels that are pretty cool as well. Our entire website got rebuilt in the last year by John Stoller, who used to be the president of Irva and is quite a technical wizard, and took this entire thing on himself to rebuild things for us, which we appreciate hugely. And in the last month, we are have done now a benefits overhaul. So that is the presentation. And I was going to take you over to the website. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have unshared there. I'll bring it back. But does anybody have anything they want to ask before we go to the website? I'll just start bringing it up now, and we can get ourselves over there.
Can I pick a question?
Yeah. Oh, there's chat questions. I didn't see that.
Yeah. Heather's got something to ask as well.
I'm wondering
Yes,
if
I was just wondering whether or not you hold any of your conferences on this side of the river here in Europe.
your side of the river.
The pond, actually, I should say the pond. It's known as the pond, isn't it? Yes,
Okay.
I'm in London, England. Have you ever held any of the conferences in Europe?
I don't think, did we do one? No. Yeah, we haven't yet.
And you don't have anything planned
But
for the...
we have been in talks about doing it. So that was pre-COVID, that we were really actually looking at that pretty seriously.
Okay.
That's something that's, in my heart that I really, really want to do. So
Okay.
it is on the table.
Right.
That was, of course, now we're just struggling to get to New York. So, so we are looking at that in the next few years.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can add something to that, because John Cook came to a meeting that we arranged in London. We had this, or we did until COVID, had this annual meetup in London, but it's by invitation only. And we were going to do another one last year and this year, and this year's was going to be in Paris with Alexis Champion. I don't know, but maybe we could spitball the idea separately of because we got Alexis Champion doing possibly something in Paris, us doing our invitation only thing in London thing, that maybe we could, between all three of us as groups, put our heads together and do something for Europe, maybe London, Paris, or somewhere around about here anyway.
I would love that. I would love that.
That'd be cool. Do you want to grab one of the questions, Pam?
Yeah, can you see the questions, or would you like me to read them?
I can see. Yeah, I can see them. Have you, John, you may have to help me with this. So have you considered creating a trial period for memberships, like the first 7 to 14 days free? Would love to navigate the website as a member to decide what membership level to choose.
Yeah, we don't, the closest that we have to that right now is that if you are, over time working your way through with a trainer as a student of RV, you don't have to be like sitting in a classroom right now, but if you're sort of working through a training cycle with someone, there is a 1 year that you can join, and it's not renewable. So after the year, you have to decide what you want to do. But I don't think up to this point, we haven't really come up with a thought about that, but that is something we could take a note on and see if that makes sense to try to do and how we could technically do it. I'm going to take you through the website a bit now, so maybe that'll actually even help you a little bit with knowing what's in there. But
okay, let's answer this one real quick. Will the 21 conference also be streamed for those who can't travel intercontinental? If not, would you consider streaming keynote speeches? So we will be streaming the conference, yes. Yeah. We've been doing that for the last few years. And so trying to get that out to folks who we know can't make it in person. Anything to add to that?
No. Yeah, it was one of the things that we had to make sure that we could do it. Doing it at the Omega Institute this year is a little bit weird because it's normally, we're at a hotel and it's all very clear what we have control over and stuff like that. Doing it at an institute like this, we had to kind of double check like everything, along the way to make sure that we could do what we wanted to do. But that's all cleared, so we can do that.
A lot of people like the UK idea. I like it too.
I like it. I miss being over there. Okay, maybe I'll throw up the website thing because that might generate some thoughts. Oh, that's the wrong screen. It's hard to find good help. Hang on. That one. Okay. So this is the landing page of the site, and you'll notice up at the top, it knows that it's me. So when you come to this site as a non-member, you're going to have access to most of the same stuff, but visually with the navigation and so on. But when you get to certain areas, that then is sort of controlled for depending on your membership level. So the first thing I was going to show you is kind of what those membership levels were in that kind of unreadable table that I had up on the screen earlier. And so if you want to see that, when you get to the landing page, you just click on the join button, and all those details are in the screen that's buried in here. So we'll do that. We've got Russ Targ at the top telling you why this is such a great idea, which of course we agree with. Is that big enough for, let's see, I'll try to strike a balance between it being big enough and also
That's
not having
perfect.
to scroll too long. So we've got 5 levels at the moment of membership. The one that most people come in at initially is the associate level. And that gives you kind of all the basic stuff. And the student level, which is the one over here, is all exactly the same stuff. So there's no difference between those two, except that the student membership, the idea there, like I said, is that if you're working your way through a study program with an RV teacher, and you have an opportunity through that to have a complimentary year, as long as you've not been an Irva member before. There's not a lot of restrictions on it. It's just that it's not renewable, so you get it for the year, and then you have to kind of roll it over into something else, and you can't have been a member before. But you get all the same things as the associate level. So that includes, why don't we just do these first, and then we'll go across and talk about the differences. Focal point, like I said, is the target practice group. There's a private discussion forum. The CIA RV archives and the companion guide is there. You get streaming video. This is relatively new. We've expanded this. So you get streaming video access to all past Irva conferences, except for the past 3 conferences. And the reason we draw a line with some of these is that we also, as a way of raising funds to keep the lights on, we sell and rent videos of conferences as well. Both, some of them, the older conferences, are sold as CDs, and some of them are streaming service through Vimeo. You can either buy them or rent them. But that's pretty good. You can access basically all the way back to 2000 and up to, at the moment, 2015. You get a 10% discount on conference registration. You get access to come to these IRU meetings without being nudged every so often and told that you should join. And you get access to these Irva virtual education programs that we were talking about, which are completely new, and we don't even know what they are yet, but we're excited to kind of put together a curriculum there. This associate level is the same. That's the $45 a year. The $100 a year is all the same stuff, except that when we get down to the videos, you get access to everything except the current year, the most recent conference year. You get a bigger discount on the conference. We had to put an asterisk on this, and I have to be really clear about this for this year. I'll scroll down to it. We don't have a way to do these higher levels of discounts for the event that we're doing at Omega. For logistical reasons. Being at Omega is quite different. Hosting it there is quite different than what we're used to, where normally you would book your own hotel, you know, in Vegas or wherever we are. You would do all your own food. You would figure out all sorts of things about being there on your own. At Omega, it's like a one price. You're there, they're feeding you, you have a place to stay, and so the price tag on paper looks higher, but they're providing all that. The flip side of that is that the little bit of money that we, as Irva, get to take home, if we were to give more than a 10% discount, we would actually be in the red. So we can't, we just don't have a way to do these. But after this year, these all these kind of additional discount values are going to kick in. So we wanted to have it up on the website, but we have to be really careful that people understand that that's kind of the deal for this year. So normally then the Tasker level, which is $100 a year, is going to get 15% off. You still have access to the IRU meetings. You get access to all this stuff. We're going to start having special live and recorded online meetings specifically for tasker level and above, where you get to hang out with remote viewing luminaries. And I think by remote viewing luminaries, I mean people more interesting than me, basically, and Q&A sessions with them and so on. And there will be kind of in-person private gatherings of the same sort at the physical conferences that you'll get access to. You get listed on the website, which is good for bragging rights, and that's that level. The sustainer level, which is hefty, it's $500 a year, has similar stuff. Differences would be that you just get all the conference videos, period. You get a 20% discount on conference registration every year. Let's see, everything else is largely the same, except that you automatically have complimentary access to the live stream that's going on during an in-person conference during the window of time. Usually what we do is there's a live stream of the conference. Everybody has a couple of weeks to kind of look at the archive of those in case you can't sit through the entire weekend. So you just get access to those every year, like automatically. And then the lifetime membership, which is fantastic when people support us at a level that they believe in us enough to do this, has all the same things, 25% discount on the conference. Basically all the same things going down here, and you're getting listed on the website, and you get the constant live streaming. So that's kind of boring because it's just a big table, but that gives you an idea of what those are, and you can get into those through this this join button on the home page. So I'll just take you on a quick spin through the website so you can see what some of these things look like. One of the big things is this library. I'm going to go into the Aperture Magazine section first. And I'm not going to take you through every page, so don't worry. I'm just going to kind of give you a taste of this. And now page 307. So this previously was set up differently, but now when you come in here, you see kind of a summary view on the one side of the cover, a little bit of a table of contents, and you have links to either look at it here on the site, or you can still, some people really like the idea of the physical copy, so we didn't want to take that away, but we're no longer going to be, it's no longer a membership thing, getting access to the physical copy. It's available to everybody, but everybody can go to MagCloud and buy that. But when you click on, you want to view it, it opens up a viewer, which we'll just give it a second in the background to actually get some of the pages going. And you can just use this little interface to flip through in a nice way and look at the whole magazine, which is pretty cool. And that is now available. Just get myself out of here.
To the world.
Yeah, everybody. Well, I may be permanently in this page. Give me a sec. Here we go. Oops, I hit too many buttons. So that was the first issue, and it just, you can see here that this goes all the way back to the beginning when it looked like this, which was awesome in its day, but kind of go for a little bit of a cooler visual now. So that's neat. There's a section for just some remote viewing related articles and papers. There's a section here, remote viewing videos, but these are not the conference videos. These are just kind of interesting things that we're linking you to that you might find interesting. The conference videos. So you have to be logged in to the website to get to this, and now that, because I am, and because it's treating me as though I'm a lifetime member at the moment in the system, we can look, for example, at the 2020 conference, and we can see that there's these talks, and I can click on this and it immediately will just pop up a thing, and we'll be able to actually like sit there and watch these videos, and you have access to them. There's Bill Ray giving a really cool shared talk with Pam and Sean. And these go all the way back to 2000. So you've got access to all of that. The CIA Stargate Archives is a massive data repository that when we moved the website over, John Stoller had to do a lot of work to get that all moved over onto the new servers and everything like that. But it comes with a cool kind of guide that comes with it that gives you a little bit more context to a lot of things than just, you know, here's a million PDFs on your lap, which is kind of nice. Let's see, what else have we got? Under research, you can find information about the Irva research unit, like we were discussing, and you get details about when the meetings are, or at least how to get into them, roughly when they are. The Warcollier Prize, which I'll hype again just briefly because it is April 4th is when we want this, and it's a prize that's named after René Warcollier, who is a pioneer in parapsychology. This $3,000 award that people get is co-funded by Irva and by Iris Intuition in Paris. We split on that, and there is a panel of experts. Some of the folks are provided by Iris, and some are provided by folks from our side who take a look at research proposals, and it's all done very carefully, where they've blinded themselves to who the people are and so on, and they're just trying to look at research proposals on their merit, and then they make a decision, and your project gets funded, and you get to either write a article for Aperture describing it when it's over, or come present at the conference. Is there anything, Pam or Angela, that you think I should highlight in here? Or is that pretty much?
It's pretty good. I mean, maybe the fireside chats.
Oh yeah, where are they? Under, maybe they stuck them under video. Oh, it's right there, right under fireside chats.
We'll be doing more.
Yeah. So this is a thing we started doing a little bit more than a year ago, I think, periodically, where we get folks in that people would like to sit down and have a chat with. I think they're usually about an hour and a half, and they're pretty good. We don't actually have a fireplace or anything like that, but I have that like chair. So that's what we've done in the past. But these are pretty good. And up to this point, these have been free, and I think these are going to continue to be free. So the Q&A stuff that we were talking about with RV luminaries is like a separate set of things for members.
John, I have some questions in the chat about the conference.
Yeah.
Two questions, and they can be put together here. One asked is there a participant limit for the Omega conference? And someone asked what's the price as well for the Omega conference?
I don't know if we know that yet. We know in general that there's going to be a bit of sticker shock with it, because whereas in my head anyway, when I go to an Irva conference, I know I'm going to spend a certain amount per night for the hotel room. That could be like $300, $400, $500 possibly, and then I'm going to have my food and all that kind of stuff. So all of that basically is provided by them in a one-shot thing. So we don't know what that is yet, but it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be people are going to have an initial gasp, but then when they think it through, realize that it's actually kind of the same as going to a conference. So hopefully. The registration for that will all be done through Omega, so I'm not sure when that kind of stuff will be finalized and up. We've got a whole bunch of information we have to get them shortly about the conference, but hopefully we'll. And the participation limit, you mean like number of people?
Yeah.
So what they've told us is that that facility, I don't know how many of you have seen it or are familiar with it, but there are a lot of different venues kind of within the facility, and they have been able to host like enormous things before. And so what they've said is that they're going to wait till later in the year to kind of assign us to the bucket that we're going to be given. So if a lot of people sign up at the beginning, it's no problem. They'll just give us a bigger space.
Great stuff. And like, I had looked for the website here, and I couldn't at first glance find any details about the conference. Is it on the website here, or has it got a separate website?
The detail. So the detail that I brought up with the speakers and so on, that's probably the first time that's been kind of out there. So we're going to we'll have conference pages on the website, kind of really splashy, easy to find, and so on. But yeah.
And for most of the people here, it being all the normal Facebook groups and
yeah.
And,
yeah, we'll be waving that around as well. Yeah. I guess what I should mention too is that under the shop menu here, even for people that aren't members, obviously, the DVD and streaming video page is how you can find all the conferences going back quite a ways, and any of the ones in, say, the last 4 years or so, they're primarily being provided via Vimeo. So as a streaming service, you can either buy it, and your account on Vimeo just, holds the account, much like if you bought a movie on iTunes or, Google Movies or whatever that's called, or you can rent them. So if I go into, say, we'll just click in so that we'll get transferred over to the Vimeo site, and you see this is the 2020 conference that we just did, and all the talks are there, and you've got little different pricing options between renting them and watching them, and we tried to make it kind of fair for how the pricing is done. And then in earlier years, kind of going back, there's other talks as well. We haven't, at some point, the intention is to kind of walk back so that even really old stuff can be gotten through Vimeo, because that seems to be what people want now, and not. I don't actually have anything to play a physical DVD on in my house anymore. So we'll be kind of back walking those to get more and more of those on. But even the earlier years are still available in here to buy, but the links are to the service that generates the DVDs. So you just gotta make sure you watch what you're clicking on there.
I have a question in the chat window about the possibility for your educational videos. The questions ask, would it be courses in remote viewing, like mini courses?
Yeah. So I know that John Noble, who's one of our board members, and he's also written a book about natural remote viewing, which is kind of his approach to a version of remote viewing methodology that's definitely informed by all the more complex systems, but also it's just kind of an easy thing that a person can pick up. I think he's actually working on putting us together a little talk that he's going to do. So that might be one of the first ones that's done as soon as he's got that available. And then I expect, we don't even have this worked out yet, but I expect there will kind of be a little sub area in the website, and there'll be archived versions of those things for members, but probably also an opportunity to take part live as well.
Yeah, and if you guys have ideas on subjects you'd like us to cover, talk about, we are completely open to your input.
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
Can I butt in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh God, Paul's here.
Paul's here.
Hey, I couldn't let you be here loose by yourself, Pam. So I don't know if you guys done this, but feel free to link that one YouTube video I've got, how to do a simple remote viewing. I mean, that might be a nice introductory thing.
Oh yeah. I wonder if John has done that already. Maybe
it's
not.
Just an idea. So
yeah, we'll make a note of that because that's good.
We'll harass Paul into doing something for us too.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that Paul has done for the last few conferences is run a little introduction to RV workshop just at the start of the conference that lets people get a little bit of the history if they don't know that stuff, but also learn some of the do's and don'ts and how to do simple sessions, and then get an opportunity to do some stuff. And the feedback from that has been like super positive, and we've had some trouble with managing the rapid registrations for it. The one year in Las Vegas, we actually had to. We thought we could do a board meeting just in advance of the conference, and we ended up having to completely abandon the meeting and just run out there and start managing all the people registering at the table. So it's very popular.
Yeah, and one thing to add about that, that is not included in the conference fee. I donate that time, but they charge a modest registration fee. The goal is to raise additional funds to help defray the cost of the conferences. People don't realize how much it costs to put these conferences on, and so I figure might as well help. Just a couple hours out of my time, might as well help offset the expenses. So, so anyway, it's therefore worth everybody's while, I hope.
Yeah, we appreciate it, because some years the conference it's borderline whether we're going to lose money on running it, and we love doing them. And actually, a lot of people say that it's one of the big reasons that they want to be members is the opportunity for community. So as much as we've done online stuff in the last little while of necessity, we're certainly not trying to replace getting back to like sitting across the table from each other.
Looks like John's here too. John Noble.
Oh, hey, John.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
See me? Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm doing exactly that. That's sort of a basic. I'm going to do 2 courses. I know we're going to do others. We've spoken about, people have been throwing around ideas, and we're open to ideas completely. The first one I'm going to do is going to be actually open to everyone, the public as well. And it's really going to be a very, very basic, what is remote viewing? Just sort of like set that straight. Plus a practice session. So, we'll run through a target. And I plan to I'm happy to do these on an ongoing basis, and I think we should try and do things at different times to capture different time zones. And then the second one I'm going to do would be for members, and it would be, just a slightly same sort of thing, but slightly, more advanced sort of like things to think about and things to do.
Cool.
Thanks.
And as you're there, John, maybe I'll pull up the focal point. So we mentioned this a few times. This is the target practice thing. This is it sort of functions as a little discussion board all on its own, but it's separate within the page. I'm not going to click on any of these because I don't want to spoil the target for any of you. But this is the current target that is up, and members have access to this page, and they can look at this, and they can prepare their sessions and send them in. And we keep an archive as well of all the prior ones, which I will also not click on, individually, going back a bit, and then even older ones. And if I did click on them, you would see that there's the feedback information on the target, and then there's like a little discussion thread underneath where people are able to upload their results and be angry or happy or whatever comes of that. And John manages this for Irva. And these are, how would you describe these targets, John, in terms of complexity and skill?
They're pretty strong targets. They're quite sort of definitive, strong sort of. Most of them are locations, but don't let that, don't take that on too much. But most of them are very sort of fairly strong sort of images. you know, there tends to be one sort of central thing that's there. So they're good sort of, you know, good sort of basic mid-level targets, I'd say.
Okay. And I guess too, I should click on the forums link, and I guess that'll be the last thing I probably show in the website, unless anybody has anything specific. So you'll remember that for years we had a Yahoo group online that was sort of an email server, kind of the old type, where if you post something, everybody got emailed that email, and then if somebody replied to it, everybody got that email, and it could get pretty exciting if a conversation was getting you know, a little heated or something, and people are replying to different things at different points in the thread, and there was no coherence to, and you're like, I think we covered this already, but it just keeps iterating. So now that's all gone, and members, as part of their membership, have access to the forum now on here, and it's possible to kind of just have a conversation where things are organized into the actual topic and much more modern sort of style of chat. So that's a nice update as well. And that's a members only thing. So I know sometimes online RV discussion can kind of, you know, go a little bit wild, and also if you would prefer to have a conversation with people that are all talking kind of about the same language and concepts, and then you just got somebody that jumps in with you know, how they you know, just some random side thing that has nothing to do with RV, and you have to sift through all that. So this is lightly moderated and you know, has lots of good stuff, and we'll have even more. So I think that's everything I was going to show with the website, unless anybody wants to look at anything or see anything particular that's like a members only area that you want to see. Otherwise, I'll turn the screen sharing off so that it's not, so we all see each other again.
I have some more questions that have come in. One's from Richard Mahoney. Has Irva made plans to try to encourage younger people to get involved in RV? And have any universities or college student unions been approached, maybe running RV information workshops?
Yeah, we had one thing that we started to do was that we had a donation that Gail Husick did in 1 year to, it was called the Lynn Buchanan, what was the formal name of it? The Lynn Buchanan. It was basically a grant to try to get some younger researchers that are actually working at universities to join and to come out and so on. We're certainly trying to. That's of course the big problem, I think, with a lot of organizations, is trying to catch a younger audience, which we definitely need to do if we intend to be running, you know, 10 years from now. So input on that is welcome as well.
Well, we did have, so we had the Lynn Buchanan grant, and we had a winner. We had some research, and they were going to present at the conference. All of that was going to be announced, and everything was going to happen in March 2020. And obviously, none of that happened. But that is a focus for us, is to outreach to universities and the younger crowd. We know that we have to pass the baton. So we are trying to continue to find ways to outreach younger folks. But if you have any ideas, Richie, we would love to hear them too.
Okay, I have some more questions.
Yep.
One from Demi for John Cook. At your presentation at the 2018 Irva conference, there was a question about ways that could more clearly distinguish between imaginary or virtual unreal targets. You said then that there are not enough experiments in this regard. Do you have any news in this regard?
Just that I'm still hoping that we do some research like that. We were chatting before, you know, before this started, and I was kind of hoping it would come up, because I really think this is probably one of the most important topics, you know, needing a solid research. We're definitely past You know, the old project mindset of let's do another project to see if RV works. That's like, well, that's super cool, but like most of us know that you know, we're past that now. We don't need endless iterations of that. But how it works, you know, like at the beginning of the program at SRI, they were working on trying to figure out some of that stuff, like ruling things out. You know, everybody thought it was electromagnetic at first, and so you've got Pat Price stuffed in a Faraday cage, and you've got, I think at a later point, you've got folks on submarines, you know, deep underwater, where you know, theoretically the bit rate of information flow, if it were EMF, would be like so low that you couldn't get it, and it didn't matter, you know. So I think at some point, you know, folks realized that, well, we don't really know how it works, and that's left a lot of questions open, especially when we get into these kind of topics like we were talking about. And the conference before that, before the 2018, Daz and Pam and I did a little panel thing talking about some of those same issues. I think the problem is that the research that you would have to envision to get to the bottom of some of these questions is really complex. Like if you think about, and for those that maybe don't know what the talk was about that we were referring to, there's this idea of tasker or viewer bias coming into a remote viewing session, particularly if it winds up being that the target is not a real thing. I think we've all heard the kind of the stories of you know, Santa Claus being a really cool target to work, and how that works. We don't know how that works. And although you know, there's a lot of folks who will swear that they can identify the difference between data that's coming from imaginary versus real targets, you kind of have to take their word for it, because there's not been proper research done. And what's going on there would be a really fundamental question. So it would be super complicated to try to work it out, and probably require a really large effort. But I think it's one of the big questions that needs to be worked through.
It's a fascinating question. It's one of my favorite questions, as I see it come up in my classes quite a bit, where you know, there's definitely some sort of tasker interference sometimes. You know, I had a situation where I had given a practice target to my class, and every single student missed it, and they went to the same place. And crazy enough, they went to a case that I was working on. And I happened to be super emotional about that situation in the moment, or that week. I was very emotional about it. And every single student, and it wasn't just a few, it was probably like 12 people. All 12 people went to that wrong target and described it as if it were the target. So it's a fascinating subject to me, how that happens. Daz, any comments?
Well, you know,
Thank you very much.
It's a project of mine that I've been working on for a while, and I still have a very large project that might help confirm it in some way. I did a 5-target project on it, where I had a test target, which was just a random target, but then I had 2 other targets that were set. I won't say what they are right now until I release it, but each of those targets had different taskers on it with opposing viewpoints, and they were not imaginary targets, but they were targets with not solid feedback. And I wanted to see if the viewpoint at the tasker affected the people doing the remote viewing sessions on it. And I have to be honest, because of the COVID thing last year, I haven't analyzed the data on it, and that's because, you know, it's well into like 200 RV sessions as well, so it's a lot of work there. But hopefully I will get around to it and see if there's anything there. But I had a quick look at it, and I did see some similarities that did indicate that the tasker's viewpoint on the target may have influenced the data that came through from the remote viewers, but it's not confirmed yet. We have some more questions here. I saw one just now. It was for Pam. Can you share an interesting crime case that you helped solve?
Sorry, my dog's barking. Bad timing. I always say this, I don't believe that I solve crimes, police do. I'm just a tool to help them out and put them in the right direction and add insight and that kind of thing. So rarely will you hear me say that I've solved a crime. Though probably about a month ago, I was involved in finding the body of a missing woman. And we were able to lead the sheriff's department there so that they could make the recovery. So that was just about a month ago, here in Southern California.
Excellent. And another question is, I guess this is for anyone involved in the talk tonight. Is anyone developing any remote viewing for healthcare? Guess that would be a no then. I'm not, so. And I don't know anyone who is, to be honest.
I think Lynn does a medical
There's
application.
a problem with that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I suspect Angela and I were going to say the same thing. Well, that's well, go ahead, Angela. I'll defer.
Oh, I was just going to say there's some problems with the AMA. You have to be really, really careful doing medical RV, that you have to use disclaimers, etc., because you cannot diagnose or prescribe or do anything unless you're a qualified, certified medical practitioner. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of remote viewers kind of shy away from that topic.
And there's a challenge as well in just doing the research, because in order for it to be accepted as credible, you have to have some kind of institution home for it, right? You have to have I'm blanking on the panel. You have to have a human use board anyway.
Yeah, ethics.
Yeah, and you have to. You can't. In fact, you can't. You can get in legal trouble if you don't have that. If you're experimenting with it, right? And so there's all these hoops you have to jump through, and there are some kinds of research you can do as a private person, and lots of folks in parapsychology do that. But things like medical research there's lots of little sticky wickets there that get you in all kinds of trouble if you're not able to do that. Not to mention the fact it's a pretty expensive thing to do that kind of research. So.
Another question from the chat is from Donna. She asks, is there a list of topics that Irva would like to see researched?
I think you know mine now.
Might be a good idea to get a poll out there or a questionnaire on Facebook or on the website to ask for some solicitations on that, I think.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's a good point to bring up, that Irva itself doesn't do any research. We kind of we facilitate it. We try to facilitate it. The grant money, for example, that helps somebody who wins the Warcollier, gets them going. But I think we did one research project quite a number of years ago where we were doing stuff with random event generator systems. But other than that, we mostly don't do our own research. We kind of facilitate.
Correct.
Can I say something, Daz? I'm one of Lynn's students, and I sort of specialize in the medical applications part of things without being medical. And I don't offer any medical advice or anything medical, but what I can do through the Lynn's office building and through the Mongolian writing, I can get the information from the subject, and we can send in information. So you're receiving information from the subject, but you can also put information in to help them, to persuade them to heal themselves. But you have to add that if the body isn't capable of healing, that the body is the best healer we'll ever have. if the body isn't capable of healing itself, we have to put in the proper nutrients and sort of like baking a cake, the proper ingredients to make the thing work. And there's another student of Lynn's, John Baldwin, who's a microbiologist by trade and runs a health shop. And he, with me, we can find out what's wrong with somebody. They still go to their own doctor, and we never say stop doing any of their medical treatment, but we can persuade them to and persuade the body to heal a bit quicker, because it's the body that will do the healing. So even today we got news that a guy who has prostate cancer, his readings were at 135, which should have been 5, and in 7 weeks it's gone from 135 down to 5.36. That was just confirmed today. So we know that it works, but the body has to have the right ingredients for it to work. So it's only a persuasion as opposed to a medical thing. Lynn is there if he wants to say some more on that.
Is he here?
I can say,
Yeah. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Okay. Yeah. Originally, I was working with a man named Sabli Saba out in California, who was finding doctors who would work with people to test out alternative healing methods, and so it was licensed and all that. Sabli has passed away, and so I don't think anybody else is doing that now. But I think Paul and I both have medical applications courses where we do not teach you to, go out and heal people, but to, find out what's wrong, and see if you can help a person get to the right doctor, something like that. I don't know if Paul is still teaching his or not. I haven't taught mine in about 3 years now because of my life situation and all that, being more than semi-retired. But Paul might want to say something about that. I think he has a horse, and I have one too. So, but we do not. We're very careful about the legal ramifications of it. You have to be.
Paul?
Paul may have stepped away for a minute. He'll be back.
Okay.
Does anyone there got anything they want to add or ask on this topic?
Well, can I answer Julie Tasker? She's in the UK, and in the UK they have complementary therapists who are non-conventional and are allowed, if they become registered, they're allowed to work with patients in an unconventional format. We don't have that here in the States. So if we had that, I think it would be much easier for RV to be applied to health issues. But we're not there yet.
Okay. Did someone else have something they wanted to ask?
Heather had a question.
Do any of your other students have RV? Well, they will have if they're members. What I should say actually is, has any of your RV students studied medicine or do have medical backgrounds? And if so, you could work with them as or alternative therapists as well?
To whom are you asking that question?
Or anyone, Irva, the people who run Irva?
We have many doctors who have come for RV, okay, and of all different forms of the parts of the medical establishment, and okay, not only physical but also mental mental studies, you know, psychiatrists, psychologists, and all that.
Okay.
I have a lot of students. Who
And
are
have they, sorry,
using
have, oh, that's wonderful. Have they used RV on, or have they, do you know whether or not they've used RV on their patients or researched it themselves?
Yeah,
Oh, they have.
They
Oh,
report
wonderful.
back that they have.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
And that it has helped them. Now, they don't heal with it. Basically, they use it to find information. You know, remote viewing is not remote influencing. Remote viewing is finding information, and they
Okay.
use that to get additional information about their patients.
All right.
To then use regular methods to help them heal.
All right. Okay, that's lovely. Okay, one more question. Let's see if I can sneak one in. The courses on this, I'm relatively new. I'm studying with Laurie Williams. I'm on the intermediate level, so I'm relatively new. But it would be wonderful at some point next year or the year after to get into the health side, because I am an alternative therapist. So what are the courses? Who runs the courses? Lynn, do you, or John, Pam? Where can I find information on the courses if you run them?
Laurie does.
She
Also,
does.
Colleen Marinich up in Canada,
Okay.
Paul O'Connor over in Ireland,
Okay.
Coro Corte over in Italy.
Okay, there's quite a few. All righty.
Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you.
And you can always email us. You guys can always get us through the website. If you have general questions to Irva, you can always email us through our website, and John and I see those emails and we do our best to answer. So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
right, John?
Mhm. Yeah, it is so wide open that sometimes it's quite exciting what comes into the mailbox.
It is exciting. Yeah.
Can I just make another little mention about Gail Husick ran a project one time in relation to, it was a blind task, and I was one of two viewers. She gave this thing in Irva 2 years ago, I think, about twins. We didn't know anything about twins, but we got all the information about what happened to these. It turned out to be autistic twins, and both of us got that it was connected with milk and injections, you know, vaccines or whatever. But how I know how powerful this is I knew the person I was talking to. I didn't know it was a 14-year-old boy, but I knew mentally the person couldn't speak. I knew that much. So I said, and I knew this was my final tasking. So I said to the person, tell me something about yourself that your loved ones will know, that it's coming from you and it's not my imagination. That's exactly what I wrote down. I can't remember what the information I got back, but when the report went to the family, they started to cry immediately because they knew it was their son talking. So that's how powerful the medical apps, for the want of a better word, is so important and helpful to people. You can get the information out, and now we're putting information back in to help the people help themselves.
Daz, aren't you having a one of these with Gail pretty soon?
Yes, a couple of weeks. I think maybe next week, actually. Let me just check my sheet here. Bear with me a second. I got so much on my desktop here at the moment. But yeah, she's coming on to talk about her business application. So yeah, she could probably go into that. And Alexis Champion's coming on the same night as well to talk about what he's doing. Yes, I think that's next week, if I'm correct on this. I can't find the talks on my desktop at the moment. I've got so much open with all these windows here. But yes, coming up soon.
More health questions here. Lynn, stay put.
Yeah, there's lots of health-related comments in the chat there. Does anyone have anything they want to actually talk about here or should we go to the health questions in the chat window?
I have a question for Pam, but it's not about the health related, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Pam, I've been on your website, and I see that you were into some, perception courses and channeling some things and whatever. And I heard somewhere, I don't remember where, that when you do remote viewing, you don't do any channeling. You turn that off somehow. But I guess when you do channeling, you're not doing remote viewing. And this brings up the question, which I'm dying to get an answer, is how do you perceive the difference between one and the other? What is
Good
it?
question.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Good question.
Yeah. I do not do channeling, and generally I try to set aside any sort of influence coming from a spirit themselves in the work that I do. I think that's what you're referring to. How do I tell the difference? Whew, that's a whole lecture in and of
No,
itself.
I'm dying to know this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, those who do controlled remote viewing, it's a whole different process. So it's done on paper. It's a step-by-step protocol. It happens step by step by step. And so you definitely know that you are not in that same sort of receiving mode because you're following this sort of step by step process. So it's quite a different modality there. In my regular psychic functioning, I still separate that out in a way that I'm not receiving first person information. So a lot of times, if I were asking about a person who was missing, I would be trying to gather information about that person, not asking them, where are you? Tell me what happened to you. Connecting with that sort of energy. I'm trying to pull in more universal information about that particular person. Does that make sense?
So are you asking mental questions and then waiting for an answer?
Correct.
Okay. And then when you're doing remote viewing, you're not necessarily asking any questions. You're doing an ideogram and then probing it and getting perceptions that way.
Correct.
Do they, how should I phrase this, sound the same?
Does what sound the same?
When something pops into your mind, do you hear it as words? Is it the same sort of sound, or are you getting visuals on one or just perceptions on one, but like words in another?
So is this one of my favorite questions? One of my favorite, I hope we're not boring everybody. One of my favorite questions, though, is, receiving is receiving. So I don't care what type of work you want to do. If you want to do medical work, if you want to do remote viewing, if you want to do psychic detective work, even mediumship, it doesn't matter what type of work you want to do. Receiving is receiving. So you're going to receive information either visually, through clairaudience, which is, hearing words, hearing sounds, thoughts, sometimes, the physical clairsentience type feelings. So all of that, it's, receiving is receiving is what I always say. So if I'm in psychic mode, I'm still going to hear things and see things and perceive things very similar to the way I would be doing in remote viewing. It's just a different access and a different process.
Okay. All right. That's answers my question. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's structured too. For example, back on the healing, but also on this, I guess about 3 weeks ago, I got a request from a friend up in Ohio who was having medical problems and wanted me to look into it. And you observe and you report what you find out, so you can ask questions and all that. And so I did a full session, and I kept finding this underground tube that led out to another building. And so when I talked to her the last time, I said, where's your air conditioner? And she said, it's in the garage. And that there was a duct going from the garage in. And I said, I keep finding some kind of black stuff around the edges of your garage. Can you take a look at that? And she had someone come in, and she had mold in the garage. The air conditioner was picking up the gases from that mold, feeding it into the house. The house didn't have any mold, but she was reacting to that. And so there was no healing going on there. There was just observing a problem and giving information. And that information helped her find the cause and correct it. So something like that, but it's very structured so that you can ask questions, observe the answer, get the answer, and the answer doesn't always come from the person. They come from the site.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you.
I hope that helps answer.
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling here. Yeah.
Can I'd like to break in and totally change the subject, because I want to acknowledge somebody who most of you have never heard of. Lynn knows him, and Angela, I think. Yes, Angela. So David Hathcock, who was the guy that was, and you'll see how this fits in. He was the guy that's of anybody most responsible for Irva existing. I just got off the phone with him. He's not doing well health-wise, but he's an amazing person. He is taking remote viewing classes from me, from Lynn, maybe Dames. I can't,
Yeah,
from
I gave him a
Angela,
class too.
from Angela, yeah. And he's actually interacted with most of the major people in the field, from Dean Radin to Joe McMonigal to Hal Putoff to all these folks. He had a regional telecom company that he sold and retired, and so he had some money to play around with. But he also had restrictions. I won't explain what those restrictions are on how he used his income. So when it came time to form Irva, it was largely his idea. He's really the guy that came up with the idea. And he wanted to help fund the original founding meeting. But he had to come up with money from an alternative source. And so he had restored this antique car that he absolutely loved. And it was worth a lot of money. He sold that car to fund the foundation of Irva. So I just want to give him some credit. Since I just talked to him, he was fresh in my mind. You know, he was a great guy. And he may actually have something in the upcoming issue of Aperture, the 20-year anniversary Aperture. Most of us some of us at least, not everybody's responded, but those of us who were some of the original founders, we've been asked to submit something, you know, what we think about Irva or why we think it's important or whatever. So anyway, there you go. You can go back to your other discussion now. I'm going to have to leave pretty quick. So when I sign off, that's sorry.
Yeah, I'd only just heard that story about him selling his car. I didn't know that at the time, but that was very generous of him.
I think Paul jumped.
I have a question. Well, not a question. Yeah, I guess for John and Pam here. There are quite a lot of people here that are, very active within the online Facebook and social media RV communities. There's 48 people here, and quite a lot of them are very active. What would you like from us as a community to be able to give to Irva? What would you like us to do, or other than maybe join up and stuff? Is there anything else or anything more we can help with or promote, or help Irva in any way.
John, I'll let you go first.
Well, I mentioned earlier that Irva's part of Irva's mandate is to kind of look at RV as an RV thing, not an RV and thing. I mentioned that earlier, and it's gotten us, I think, branded over time as being maybe slightly boring at points, because we're sticking to this narrow topic and applying it in all sorts of directions, but kind of coming back to that thing. But I do think I think it's really important for the broader community that's out there, many of whom will never join Irva realistically, and that's fine. To you folks as ambassadors of the community generally out there, to help gently move conversations sometimes in the direction of the actual core thing, because I think there's a lot of folks out there who stumble into forums and any kind of discussion forum online, and their first exposure is maybe really super complicated things that blow their minds, and they're done. they just leave, and that's just going to happen, because we're not going to censor ourselves all the time with wanting to get into cool stuff, but to maybe make spaces for people to just come to terms with like what this crazy thing is at all, even at a baseline level, a little bit, and help folks with that. That comes to mind anyway. That would be helpful. And of course, send them over, because we'd be happy to have them as well.
I have a comment. Really, this is going to sound so cheesy, but seriously, be nice to the new people. Don't scare them off. Try not to scare them off. But what I'm always looking for, and I was president before John, is I really always wanted that feedback. I didn't want to feel like we were up in the high castle and we were away from the people who are in the field trying to learn and really interested in all things remote viewing. We really wanted to get that input and have you guys interact with us and ask questions and give us your input and sort of guide us, even, like I said, in trying to figure out what kind of educational programs you're interested in, so that we're not trying to guess all the time what it is that you want and what you need. So we really want more of a two-way street here, where you guys are interacting more with us, and that allows us to interact more with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes great sense. It would be good if some of the Irva membership at higher level maybe tried to have a bit more online participation.
I know you're looking at me.
Possibly me.
Because I see comments from you guys occasionally, but there's 3 to 4 main social media groups alone, let alone the Reddit forum with 10,000-15,000 members in it, and there just is none. They're pretty much across the main RV boards, and when you add up all those people, you're talking, I don't know, maybe 50,000 people. There isn't a lot that's ever publicized or mentioned about Irva in any way, and I'm just being honest on that, really.
No, we want to hear. Yeah.
But I post 4 groups. So I do post a lot of the Reddit now as well. If you got any stuff, then just chuck it our way. And I think myself and any of the other people here that have Facebook groups and stuff would be more than happy to post the stuff up for you.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to.
Yeah, I know. For me, it's been partly that I remember my early days of way back starting out in the community. I did nothing but posting online and targets. And there's that thing that happens initially where you just kind of lose your mind and you're doing it all the time. And I guess later in my time, coming up to now, there's sometimes almost like a time budgeting thing. And it's atrocious, really, how much of my RV time Irva admin stuff takes up. And it's not the cool part. I'm not like out trying to solve like a thing, but that's fair. Like, definitely we should be visible.
Yeah, and as I said, there are quite a few kind of community kind of leaders and players here, and I'm sure they'd all be happy to help in any way that we can do this.
Yeah, I think those of us who are doing applications work, I know that I post only on a few venues, but I think putting these results out there from students who are doing applications work, who are getting amazing results, I know myself, I should be making more of an effort to put that stuff out there. I feel hesitant about self-promotion, but if it's promoting RV and how it can be used, like what is there to do after training? Well, there's applications, to put it out more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking for myself with the groups that I run on Facebook and stuff, I'm happy for you to post is as much as you can on examples of remote viewing and stuff. The more we have out there, the better for people to see, really.
And that's good to know too, because I'm a little shy about it. So that's good to know.
Yeah, I'm happy on my groups. I mean, I did put a post out today, because some people were advertising training courses, but they weren't making it clear who the person was behind the training course. So I said, if you're going to post training courses in future, it'd be nice if you had a bio about yourself and a link to your website at the very least. But yeah, any other information, I'm sure it'd be great to just post it online. As I said, I'm just being honest, I haven't seen a huge amount of impact from Irva on any of those formats. And you should really look at the Reddit one, because that is a massively and fast growing community on Reddit there.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
And I'd like to also sorry.
No, that's right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wanted to back up what Daz was saying there, because following in Facebook, a lot of the, every now and then somebody will ask a question, and then everybody tries to come in with their different opinions, and sometimes arguments break out and things like that. And then I've found when you guys come in and answer something, it's always this wonderful, well-researched answer that kind of ends the arguments. I remember one recently where Paul Smith jumped in and he just said, well, I don't have enough time to describe all of this right now, but let me just in a brief paragraph explain that is how this aspect of remote viewing works. And then all the arguments just seem to slide away because you guys have so much background information just ready to go. It's so wonderful to see posts from you guys.
Nice.
Does anyone here on video or on the chat board there have any other questions they want to ask?
Can I ask something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So a lot of people claim to be remote viewers, and what they're actually doing is clairvoyance or something else. Is there a way for Irva to act as kind of a regulatory or agency for accreditation in the remote viewing field, where Irva could thoroughly check the credentials and skills of remote viewers and put them on a list or give like a seal of approval where people looking for remote viewers could find them on this list? Is there anything like this in the field, or is everything kind of word of mouth?
We've kind of, it's come up before. And on the surface of it, it sounds like it would be great if somebody would, just do that. I think anytime it's come up, though, the conversations that we've had really quickly led to how complicated that would be to fairly administer. And if you couldn't do it fairly, that would be like a travesty kind of, to even kind of do it. So I would never close the door on that, because I certainly wish that something like that existed when I was coming in. but it's hard.
Could I address that a minute?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? So in the dog training industry isn't regulated either. And there's a group, Pet Professional Guild. The way they do it is just a series of questions. And if someone's, applying for membership that they answer them. So, I mean, it could be that simple. If somebody understands basic concepts of remote viewing or CRV or whatever you guys come up with, that, yes, obviously they've studied, they're not just, talking about channeling or whatever. You might be able to do it without too much trouble.
Yeah,
I know originally, go ahead, Angela.
Oh, this topic has come up many, many times over the years, not just recently. And I think in the very beginning, it was perhaps one of the goals of Irva, but it's proved to be very difficult to implement because of the multitude of, it's like the original church and then all the churches that split off from the original church. That concept, Paul uses that concept, that you're always going to offend somebody by bringing in regulation. And it's a tricky and a touchy topic. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
I totally agree on regulation, but I just meant like a membership of these people are, they've tested, whatever. It's not quite this. Regulation is a nightmare. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, that's basically what we thought about was, some kind of list of people that sort of passed the bar, and not even a regulation, but but Irva's always been promoted as inclusive.
Yes.
So where do you draw the line?
Right. And with regulation, I was involved in getting massage therapy regulation years back. And I so regret that because it shut people out. It went in a way that certain schools were approved, so there's a lot of problems with that. But but a basic concept kind of test to say, Irva, these people have passed this little simple Irva, test that they know what remote viewing is or something like that. Could be a membership level.
Yeah, perhaps maybe for the future. I think Mark said was trying to say something.
Oh, I was just going to chime in. So I'm part of the Discord remote viewing group, and as along with the Reddit folks. But we've got people who are championing, trying to disseminate information to more people. And so individuals having I would call it a discussion with the gatekeepers of Wikipedia, trying to update Russell's page to include, like as said by Russell. And so it seems like Irva could be that group of people who kind of stand up for, here's the proper definition. Yes, it's real. And anywhere where people go to resources to kind of get an understanding, where we could actually put a stamp on it, where these Wikipedia people are almost kind of like tongue-in-cheek trolling us from the, they're like, well, they're, according to who? There could be a whole lot more support behind it, especially from an organization such as Irva. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. So I have to admit, I have not been on that group, and I feel horrible. I promised to get on there ASAP so I can see what's happening and add some Irva support there. But yeah, the battle with Wikipedia has been going on forever. There's no unfortunately, anybody can change anybody, at least it used to be this way. Anybody can change anybody's entry. And so it was just, it would get this battle, the editing battle, where they, you know, someone would change it, Russell would change it, and they'd change it back, and Russell would change it, and they'd change it back. And you know, it's just this, it's just this beast that I don't really know, you know, how to fix. But I get what
And
you're saying.
the way the algorithms work on those things, as far as I understand it, is that you know, the number of people that kind of chime in on certain things gives it a standing. And I think some of the folks who have decided to, you know, for lack of a better word, deface those pages are just really good at, you know, gaming that algorithm to make that be what comes out. And it needs a different response, you know, than just one of us kind of doing our one click and then 3 seconds later it's fixed.
Yeah.
John and Pam, I would ask one thing after, you know, thoroughly looking over the Irva website.
I was just wondering if I could chime in for a second, Russell. I had a bit of a question, if that's all right. It's Rose up here. I just want to ask about, yeah.
Could you, Russell was speaking. Could you just wait till he's finished saying what you're saying?
I was waiting to speak till John Cook finished.
Daz, it's okay.
Ask,
it's okay, Daz.
All right, Rose, go ahead.
I've been had my mic off for a couple of seconds, and I just been waiting. So, I mean, that's okay. I mean, if Russell wants to speak, you know,
just say it.
Go ahead.
Rose, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's all right.
Rose, are you going to ask? Go ahead, Russell.
Well, I think this is been a problem since I joined this group, and I feel like I'm not being allowed to say anything. I mean, I've waited until a second when John Cook stopped talking, and I tried to jump in.
Well, why don't you just say what you have to say, lady?
Okay, who are you? Who are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling at me? Who are you?
Rose, look, if you have something to ask, please ask it.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask about this regulation idea at Irva, because I have just decided that I am done with the church because of these kinds of things, these kinds of battles. And I don't know if you really want to start this kind of thing in your community when you don't have to. I kind of like this community because it's very unregulated and creative, and there's a lot of room for people who have different ideas. And once you start having regulations and rules, it starts to turn into what's going on between the conservatives and the liberals. You know, in both the church and the United States and around the world right now, you just get polarization, you cause yourself a lot of strife. And so I thought I would just chime in right now before people start making these kinds of decisions, because I'm walking away from that. I do not want that anymore in my life. I want to talk about the real things, about the spirituality, about the important things, not about the rules and who's the best or who, you know, passed the test. So that's all I wanted to say. I don't know if you feel the same way, if you've even thought about the fact that people might be able to use these skills to do evil, which is what I'm dealing with. I live in a city, Toronto, where people are using the skills that you're teaching, and they have ganged and turned themselves into a gang, and they are stalking people and hurting them. And I need to know how to protect myself. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to learn from you, and I've learned so much. And I really so appreciate that you guys are putting this information out there, because it has helped me amazingly. And I think if you start trying to do this, like to be a church, you're going to ruin your organization. So just a word of caution. Thanks for letting me ask that question.
That's a fair point, Rose, because I have a background in the church, And I've thought many, many times that some of the kinds of conflicts that we see in the remote viewing community definitely have this kind of flavor of, doctrinal purity and, debates and personalities and so on. So I hear where you're coming from with that. And I guess on the flip side, as much as I was just saying, I don't know how we would even, do oversight of stuff. On the flip side, if there ever was a way to do it, it might stop some of those types of abuses. So it's kind of there's a tension there. I'd love to see less awful out there. But yeah, anyway, that's something to think about.
Thanks, because it has caused me, so many wasted years. I put so much time into these groups, these church groups, and now it's like, it's sort of like just all evaporating because there was really nothing there except the rules. There was nothing real going on, and I'm really not too happy about that. And I find what's going on here with you guys is real. And nobody's perfect. You guys are not perfect. I'm not perfect. But what you're doing is real. And that's amazing. Because so many people in the world are living a lie and trying to promote their lie and push it. And that's not what you're doing. And it's valuable. And I want to see it grow. And I want to see it develop and be a beautiful thing. That's what I've been trying to do all my life.
That's dogma, really,
What's dogma?
Well, those kind of issues, I guess, kind of bring up that sort of feel, right? I think that's what you're saying. That's good stuff to think about.
Yeah, I just am looking for real people who are telling the truth. And I think I found it here. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to be. So thank you.
Yay. I like that.
Russell, you were.
Thank you.
You had something.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask. So when you look at the current Irva website, what you notice is a significant absence of Ingo Swan. So Ingo has no header title under any of the menus. And then when you go to the bottom menus, under RV history and RV timeline, you find 8 mentions of his name. And then when you go to education and documentation, under RV related links, you find 1 quiet little link to Ingo's current website. So, if you weren't looking for or didn't know about Ingo, he would be essentially completely absent to a new person or even people, somewhat familiar. So to me, and I am famous for being a hard-headed originalist, and I'll take all the blame for that because I'm going to fight that battle to the death. There was an original moment in time where remote viewing did not exist, and then there was a moment that did. And there were real people involved in real historical events that brought about the first quote unquote certified or government endorsed window of perception that's changed all of our lives, Everybody sitting here who's participated in it and had a good session has had their lives transformed. Some people are making income, supporting themselves. And I'm not saying anybody's getting rich. I understand that. But there's a history here. So when I look at International Remote Viewing Association and there's an essential absence of Ingo Swan, I would have to ask myself why. How could he just slip completely out of view in such a way on the very thing he at least co-created? Now he himself, just as Ellie said the other day, he didn't like the term father of remote viewing. He credited Hal almost in more ways than he credited himself. He credited Tom McNear with essentially being a better viewer than himself. And in numerous occasions, he's credited, usually the number he seems to use is 500 people fully with remote viewing. So if there's going to be some, I guess, brand or history or acknowledgement of Ingo, I would say that the place for that, even if it's just one headline to his current website, and then from there people can decide if they're interested. But the way it's listed way down there under several categories, and then one quiet little line.
Yeah.
You know, who?
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I realized that.
I actually didn't either. It was definitely not an intentional
Oh,
thing.
no, I don't think it's intentional. And like I said, I've taken a lot of heat. I've upset a lot of people. I try to bring people back to certain fundamentals. The other thing I didn't see, and maybe it's linked there, but I also didn't see a link to either Tom McNear's original working notes on remote viewing or the CRV manual itself. And I acknowledge the other evolutions of remote viewing, but it seems like the foundational documents, the two foundational documents, would also have some presence on the Irva site.
Can I ask you something, Russell, about
bringing
Ingo?
Thank you for bringing that up, Russell. And the last time I was visiting Ingo, he brought out a clay model that Tom McNear had done. That was one of his most treasured things that he kept.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And
Can I ask?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want
Rose.
to ask you, Russell, I wonder what you think of this, because I mean, I also found that Ingo was not the first person that came up when I started looking into remote viewing. I mean, he really didn't come up until I found you guys. So, and I've felt, I have to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I have a feeling of Ingo being around, and his awareness is with you in what you're doing. And I think part of the fact that you're so sort of entangled with him, Russell, is that he's very much with you. So I'm not trying to do a reading, but what I'm saying is I feel that maybe he himself is orchestrating the fact that he's not as prominent. And it seems to me that's kind of the way he was, even from the little bit that I know him, is that he wasn't about himself. So I'm wondering if you think that this is something he's doing himself.
No, I would, there's no way I could get into a mystical analysis or a subjective assessment. You know, is a person's spirit encapsulated in their words? Sure, I've read everything Ingo's ever written. Is he actually present? If I were him, I would be far off doing something else, okay? That's just a personal opinion. But Ellie, his niece, mentioned the other day in her talk, you know, some people have had these kind of encounters. I wouldn't rule it out. I'll just make a self-confession. I am just self-preferentially an originalist, at least to start. So if I want to understand the Bible, I literally went and hand wrote out the entire New Testament to understand it. And then from there, I evolved my own ideas on it. So in regards to remote viewing, it's just the same for me. I think if I'm going to rebuild a house, I should inspect the foundation. So it's a personal bias. I can't say I'm being led by this, that, or the other. And I understand Ingo's weaknesses, changes of mind, sometimes being a little snippy, to say the least, various other things. There's no sense of me that's worshiping Ingo or looking at Ingo as some sort of spiritual master or anything. I just stick to the notion. Before I'm going to remodel a house, I'm going to inspect the foundation. And so your question is a good one, and it's just simply something I couldn't answer, nor would I endeavor. Once it gets so, you know, mystical or subtle like that, I wouldn't make a decision. But
this is what I like about you guys. You're so honest, and if you don't know something, you say it. You don't try to pretend. I love that. This is exactly the kind of place I want to be. I think more people need to have this kind of openness where they can just be free not to know everything, and they can ask dumb questions, and you know, the kind of forum where we can just all relax, you know, and be ourselves. I like this place. I like you guys.
Well,
thanks, Russell.
Can I jump in here real quick? So it's a great point, Russell. And this is exactly, you're actually proving my point right now of how Irva wants this insight, because, you know, we get so caught up in the nuts and bolts of trying to keep Irva running and all of the tasks that take that certain things might get lost, that we're not seeing the bigger picture. So for you to point that out, to me, is actually very, very helpful. So that's why we want input from the community, because we may be missing something. And so we are completely open to having that kind of input.
Yeah, and then one other thing I want to clarify, I didn't jump in when Dawn was talking. It was actually me that was speaking to Dawn the other day about you and the way you keep your toolkit separate.
Yeah.
But when Dawn was asking about channeling, I said you separate your mediumship. So I remember, and I was actually part of that one or a similar one, that we all got that case you were very intensely emotionally involved in. Because I remember you telling me, oh my God, you drove the car or what, you know, whatever it was. So when you helped me sort out, like one time I had some data, and then you kind of said, gee, it almost sounds like you have a little bit of mediumship going on. And then you taught me the difference between a you know, bubbling EI column versus a quieter EI column. I would have thought the bubbling one meant the person was alive, and the quiet one would mean they were deceased. And so there was lots of differentiation. So I may not have explained it very well to Dawn, but I was just trying to tell him how you, when you do this or when you use this tool, you don't blur it with other tool. And then when you
I'm appreciating your clarification right now, Russell. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, no, thank you, Russell.
What's that?
Don said he appreciates your helping add clarity to this.
Yeah, no, we had a really nice visit the other day on Zoom, and you know, as one who has taken 6 months of your training, it's the most economical, in my opinion. It's the most personal and intimate, the live feedback. But for me, the thing I'll always be grateful for is learning where CRV is useful for me. And that was more in the description, environmental description. I found out, obviously, as you know, with my track record on Dead or Alive, it was horrible, even beyond chance horrible. So, you know, it helped me look at where CRV works for me, where these other modalities are not my, you know, niche or whatever. But the biggest thing, and to this day, it will be the learning to work front-loaded. And I remember just coming out of Paul's classes and then all of a sudden seeing a picture of the person I'm supposed to, and I see a map of California in the background, and I see a ski emblem on their jacket, and my mind's like, okay, they ski, so where can you ski in California? And that's where, you know, crazy stuff. And so, you know, if people aren't familiar with your personal work and the advantages, I would just reiterate that right now for everybody. Anyways, thank you. And Rose, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
On the Ingo thing, I do think it would be good to add some Ingo stuff. But I guess the problem that you guys may have running the website is where do you stop and who do you not include? You know, because you know there are many luminaries. I mean, we know Ingo. You know, he was when the father, as we know, that kind of came up with most of this. But you know, there are many other people. You know, Hella Hamid, Joe McMoneagle, Pat Price. You know, if we include one, do we have to include all the others and have all those? And then with the methods as well, I guess your problem you'd have is if you put the CRV manual on there, which one would you put on there? How many would you put on there? Would you have the other methods people then wanting their, you know, their methods on there as well? So it would open up a whole quagmire of different things that you guys would have to look at, I guess.
And the website itself, in spite of the fact that we've got this, you know, really cool new makeover to it and it's been rebuilt, the content really hasn't changed in years and years and years. And when John Stoller rebuilt the website for us, he wasn't really, reimagining it particularly. He was kind of just updating it and moving everything over. So some of these kind of definitely deficiencies probably just have been there for a really long time. And I think it's a good note to take to look at
Yeah,
it.
I think under the history, it would be good to have pages or at least paragraphs for each of the main people that we all recognize contributed quite a lot to the field that we have today.
Yeah.
And it could even be broken up like, true history, almost sequential. So you could have Stargate members and little bios on Mel and Lynn and Paul. So you could, maybe founders, original Stargate members.
Yeah.
However, there's a way to do it, but the thing, that I always have to acknowledge, and I'm incredibly grateful for, deeply grateful, is that without Ingo and Hal and those 500 people, Ed Dames takes a rough trip sometimes, but he did fight to get this out into the public. Without Lynn, without Paul, without these people who fought and they went through horrible battles to get over government resistance, whatever other kind of resistance, personal resistance. And if it weren't for them, people can't imagine the absence of something sometimes. But if it weren't for these people, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't know in this trainable, repeatable, verifiable manner that we can perceive more than with just our body. We just wouldn't know it. We'd still be reading mysticism. We'd still be doing everything. If this had not been formulated and fought for and brought into public view, so I think of Mel and Lynn and Paul, I look at what they've done. If they didn't care, or if they stopped, or if the law came down on them and you can't say a word, we wouldn't know about this. We wouldn't be having this conversation. There would be no Irva website. So I'm always interested in what was the bridge from here to there. So there's got to be a way to line it out. And Daz has that incredible remote viewing history chart that shows you this, and then this person learned from here, and then they went there, and they went there. There's some mechanism, and since I'm the one bringing it up, if there's any volunteer work, including licking stamps that would supplement or contribute to the solution, I'll put myself on the line here.
Writing that down.
Write that down.
It's on
I've got his email address, so.
Bribe Daz to edit it out, but
that was
anyway.
5:02 p.m. Central Time. Just add that to
There
your
you go.
notes, too.
Thank you.
Noted.
Anyways, thanks everybody for tolerating another one of my tirades.
No, it was good.
A very calm tirade. It's fine.
Any of you guys have any other questions you want to ask?
I just want to thank Russell for making it sound heroic. The fact is, there's no way I could live without doing it. And so it was, I guess, self-preservation more than anything else. And Paul's the same way.
So am I. Yeah.
Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I have a question, and I hope I don't offend anybody. So by saying that, maybe I shouldn't ask, but I'll preface this by saying, I guess I consider myself a spiritualist. I believe in a lot of woo-woo, right? But do you feel like, when you do remote viewing, obviously that opens up a world of possibility, because for the first time, potentially, you realize that there's more out there than what you were led to believe in a secular manner, right? But do you feel, and it's more like a philosophical question, but do you feel like it's a double-edged sword for remote viewing, where because it is so intertwined into the woo-woo that it's going to have a difficult and uphill climb to be recognized as an actual factual thing that people can do? Should there be a separation, or not sure quite what I'm asking, but yeah, but do you get what I'm saying? Is that an issue that you find for the future of remote viewing, I guess is my question.
I think so. I don't know how we work with it, but I think so. And that's kind of, and I keep coming back to it, but that's that point on the one slide a while ago where it said that, we try to be as an organization about RV, not RV and, because I think the credibility, not to say that some of these ands, you know, are just totally not credible and whatever else, but this is a big pill to ask somebody to swallow when they come in and you present just the basic, you know, fact of, you know, non-local awareness to somebody. That is a big ask. And people can go, you know, run off and do all sorts of stuff, but I feel like my personal mission, you know, is to try to kind of coax these people, as I had to be coaxed, to realize that this is a real thing. And some kind of the extra stuff scares people off. So it's certainly fine that people are off doing it, the extra stuff, but I feel like there really needs to be a place for this kind of, you know, just come a little closer, and we're just going to talk to you about one thing at a time, you know, kind of approach.
Could I address that for M2 a little bit? If you come back next week, you'll hear Gail, and she's doing actual work, and almost everything she does has non-disclosure agreements. I had the same thing with businesses, with the space exploration people, with research and development people and all that. And so the thing is, it is getting out there, and it is proving itself, and it is being trusted more and more. But if you only look at the fluff and the woo-woo that's on the Facebook and all that, and the arguments, then you're going to see that, you know, like Rich said, this is a problem. But the fact is, very quietly, it's getting out there. And I'm sure Angela does this, Paul does this, Pam does this, you know, just very quietly working, not reporting either because you can't legally or whatever. And so, yeah, it's developing, and it's proving itself. And Kyle had a question too. I'm sorry, didn't mean to take up the time.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
A lot of what I do, I don't have. I know the gentleman up there Junk wants to ask a question too. But I just wanted to make a point that not all I do has non-disclosure. So I put out as much as I can of the work that I do. So that's all I wanted to say, is I'm really pushing for applications and putting my work out there. So I know that Junk, I don't know how you pronounce your name, he wanted to ask a question. He keeps putting his hand up.
First of all, I wanted to say that at any time in history, Lynn is speaking, I will wait. Please, Lynn, keep talking. What I have to say is so insignificant to what you people with so much experience have to say. So I kind of joined Irva last week. I had been familiar with him a few years past when I got the free offer with Paul's book. My teacher in 2012, Paul Elder, who's from really the Monroe Institute, told me about them, or I found them on the internet. But I prepared my question properly here. So first of all, huge thanks for just starting properly with Irva and how and what it does. If you're a nobody, I don't mean to say I'm a nobody, but if you're anybody, to come in and have access to this information is phenomenal. Now, to quickly knock off my points, my second point is can we somehow talk Joseph McMonagle to coming in? Because of course I noticed recently, I think a couple years ago, there was an APP conference or something with Marty R. or other people like that. Great, fantastic. And I literally will bow down and kiss Tom McNair's teeth or his feet or whatever. But in other words, it's nice to see Tom there. And of course, the first thing I did when I got into Irva's files was zoom into everything I could. I've got it, I don't know how to say it, but I actually have memorized everything up to 2006. And now I'm working my way up to 2020. So it's really, really, really important information. Of course, it's fantastic to see Ingo there. But if somehow we could manage to like I know who Marty R is because I saw those previous videos. And I know that it's good that there's a million different movements going on at the same time, but I just hope that people don't all go in one direction, or a lot of people go in one direction. They don't even know that there's a public library around the corner that's packed, that's loaded with info. So again, if someone could hoop Joe or fly in or get him on a camera or something. So anyways, back to this. I propose, or I suggest, a little small section in other languages, and I actually volunteer for the Spanish language section. So at least there can be the basic introduction. You know, if you're familiar with Tom McNair's video he did for the Visionary Museum, where he kind of explains what remote viewing is, and then he runs you through. It's only a 15-minute video, but that really makes it clear for people that just have no idea, or they have ideas that are, you know, extended or out there. So if you would like a video in Spanish, I'd love to work on it and get it done. If you'd like to have some sort of simple introduction, or at least something for what I know personally now as the French speakers and the Spanish speakers, because we've got some, what in Canada we say ass kickers. We have some really good remote viewers in France, and I guess you guys know that way better than I do. And it would be so great if this could extend into Mexico, because as a country, we need it bad. So now to my next point, and I'm almost done. Basically, I'm asking if anyone has taken a serious effort towards a world campaign to get everybody doing CRV. And now I'm very, very familiar with all of the public videos that are on YouTube, because I collect them, and I collect as much information as I can. But I have some experience in mass movements, and I'm afraid to tell you what it is, but I used to document one and participate in it. And I would like to suggest to the lady that was talking before, when Russell and that lady were speaking issues on the point of religions and the importance of having almost what you could say a morality filter, is that if you're going to have a really big movement, which is what I'm looking for, because I would like to see crime eliminated in Mexico. Like, in other words, I have really crazy ideas. But I've seen that it's movements, powerful, big movements, start exactly and move exactly as Lynn said. They really are each one teach one, moving quietly and moving slowly, and they have to start at the grassroots at the bottom. I quite often say, well, we need to get Joe Rogan to do CRV, or we need to get Banksy to do RV. And then I found out there is a video where he is trying to do it. And of course, it kind of didn't work properly. But I think it's quite easy to express the necessary information to people, how to start and do a session. And then I would even say do 28 practice sessions, so it's consolidated and very, very clear. But the each one teach one is starting at the grassroots is essential. But I'm kind of curious, because you guys really know your history. Has anyone tried like a world campaign? And I started teaching at a McDonald's style English school in Mexico City, where they had 80 different schools in many of the big cities. And they were teaching people how to teach, again, much the way a McDonald's school would, in that they put you in a course for a month or 2 months or whatever, and then you're a teacher and all this. So my interest is that this access to this extremely important information that can protect people, that can stop criminals, that can make the society a little more of a just place. That's kind of what's flowing through my mind. I already know what I have to do, and I didn't come here to bother you guys. I'm just kind of interested in seeing and knowing what you know. And with that, I'm very happy to say I've finished my points. So again, thank you very much. Sorry, in Mexico, this means thank you.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. I like the idea of language videos, you know, basic introductory language videos, and I feel like we should do that. One thing, this is definitely not as good as what you're describing, but let me show you something really quick about the website that I had forgotten and I could have pointed out today, but I missed it. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Am I sharing that now properly? Yeah.
Yep.
one of the cool things that John Stoller did when he set this up, and this is only machine translation, so it's easily crap as far as translation goes, but any page that you're on, so if we get ourselves to the about page, and here's our story. Up in this corner, you got the little globe. Doesn't have any labels on it, but if you bring it up, it is going to do a machine translation on the fly of like the entire page. And the number of languages, I feel like if I was like a native Slovenian speaker and I read this, I'd probably be like horrified if I did the Slovenian thing, but it's probably helpful. Like, and I don't think we've pointed it out enough to people that it does this now. It was one of the cool things about the new platform, because the old page was just not capable of that. But I think that's a cool thing. But I also think that like having a native speaker be able to explain the basics and have some videos in there would be really cool.
John, also many of the people who have books that are listed there,
yeah,
also have the books in other languages.
Oh, that's totally true.
I know mine.
And we're only showing the one, probably, right?
That's right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I know mine is in Romanian and Italian as well, and will be coming out in German and Japanese. And I think Paul has several of his books in different languages. I'm 99% sure that Pam has as well.
Not mine.
Really?
No.
Nor
But I'm
mine.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Nail your publisher.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a good point, though. It's a good point. And I like the idea of some intro videos maybe in a few of the popular languages. So it's a good idea.
I like that idea of going out, promoting to the world. And I think one of the good things that's come out of this isolation we've been in is Zoom. Because now on Zoom, we're meeting people from all over the world, not just the few select people that can come to our location to learn, but people from Greece, from Russia, from Japan, from the Philippines. These people are now coming in on Zoom and encountering remote viewing. And I think that is one of the positives that's come out of this whole experience we've been through.
And on a related note, somewhere way up in the chat, I recall it going by somebody asking about whether we have or considered having like chapter organizations. And that is absolutely on the table. And we've talked about it some. I think with everything with the nightmare of the last year with conferences and whatnot, some of that didn't get moved on very quickly. Yeah, having like chapters set up in places is something we've already talked about, and we're definitely on board with that.
Something I noticed when I was looking through the videos the other day is a lot of them are very verbal, which means that I don't need to see them as video. Is there any chance in the future you can just convert them to MP3s that I could download and listen to?
Like the talks?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. The video talks that you have from the conferences, because a lot of them are like the Ingo ones, he doesn't show any slides or anything, so you don't need to be watching it. It could be just auditory, and it'd be great if all the talks were available as MP3 files that I could have and whilst I was doing the other things around the home, decorating or whatever, I could then be educating myself by listening to them.
Interesting.
It's a good point.
Sorry,
I'd like to
more work for you though.
To Rich's point.
Yes.
I always like Rich's questions. When he was asking about the separation from fundamentals to woo-woo, Ingo actually addressed this in an interview with Art Bell, where he said part of the problem, and maybe Lynn could confirm or deny this, but in the unit, once people opened up that window, they didn't just see the tree, other things started to come through that window. And maybe certain people, maybe certain agencies weren't prepared for that. But if you're going to open the window of perception, there's all kinds of things that might come into view. So I'll go out on a limb a little bit and just explain, you know, Paul's handling of this. He himself has done every kind of bizarre session, ET, Moon, Mars, underground bases, everything under the sun. But when it comes to his class and to these other initial contacts, he drives people back to their ABCs. And it has to be that way. So like for me, you know, at the end of basic, he forbade me to even read about or touch stage 4 between basic and intermediate, because he knew I was, you know, going to chomp at the bit. Now, I don't particularly have any interest in esoteric or weird sessions. I've never done one to my knowledge. But it's hard. Like so many new people that tried it for their first few times have contacted me in private message or something, and they had a weird experience or an unsettling experience or a perception they weren't ready for. So it's a fine line. So in the more public groups, if people are talking about these things at one level, it could be of assistance, but at another level, it could be a deterrent. So there's a very fine line there, in my opinion, Rich. But if we completely exclude, so, you know, like Paul's theory, okay, so you want to go remote view something that's subtle in another planet or another solar system, but you haven't proven to me yet you can correctly describe a 12-story building sitting right there in front of you in your feedback photo. So, and then, you know, where Lynn talks about in his training, you know, building that record of accuracy. Why would I try to describe a whisper in the wind when I can't correctly describe a 12-story building that weighs, you know, God knows how many tons? So I think it's a tough line to draw. If people aren't prepared for maybe some unusual experiences and they think it's all just nuts and bolts, you know, so there's probably no answer to that, but the diversity of the groups. So, you know, Paul kind of, when he started this group, it wasn't to compete or take people from other groups at all, because I helped him set it up. His intent was he just wanted a less crazy place for new people to land. And he's even asked me, don't, you know, put a bunch of weird stuff out there, or, you know, I know you're interested in this, that, the other, as are other people. But so he kind of narrowed the channel there. But then you go to what I call the Wild West group, and then you go to Daz's group, which is, you know, maintained as a fine balance. So somewhere in that spectrum, people will find their place. I am all for new people. Just you should just be practicing stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 relentlessly until you know the structure. And then if you want to do something else later, do it, but don't do it until you can, you know, do the fundamentals. Last thing, Angela, there you are. When you put out permission, for instance, on that one session that you did for Gaia TV, I don't know if you realize how much interest that generated. People are totally thirsty. I think back to when Joff was in your advanced or your master's class, I think it's called, and a couple of the clay models there from I think it was Steve and Kamara and Joff or whatever. You know, people want to see that. They want to see that stuff bad. And so I know you're not into self-promotion. I try to promote you. I try to promote Pam. And you guys.
I do post those, but they're very, you know, on a few limited sites, but I'm going to be posting things a little more widely.
But anything tangible, I mean, these people are craving to see just something fundamental and applicable. So when I, you know, tell the story of meeting you and you being my first monitor, or the benefits I received from Pam, if you guys were less reserved about promoting yourself, nobody's going to think you're selfish or egotistical. And certainly we both know you're not in this to get rich, right?
Right.
But I think putting your stuff out there. I have more comments from when Pam posted my intermediate certificate that got like 190 responses.
Yeah.
Then we posted those things related to Gaia. You look at the number of people, the number of questions, the emails, the PMs I had, and then the same with when Gail posted that technology session on trying to solve the radiation leak from the submarine off Norway. So Joff put out his work, which was incredible. So I wouldn't hesitate to do that. And anybody that knows you isn't going to think anything of it, except for here's people who have earned over decades their reputation, their professionalism, their impact on God knows how many human beings. But it really does give something for people to stand on.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be doing more of that.
Yeah, we'll stand up a little more.
Yeah.
And the tension there is that it's kind of natural that people, when they first come in, want to do the crazy stuff right away and not eat the vegetables, so to speak. Because you tell somebody, well, we got this sort of skill that you can learn and you can look anywhere and find out about anything. And they're like, well, I'll tell you what I want to know about. and off it goes. And I think we all had that and then the second thing is well, I'm going to win the lottery now, which.
The third thing is people not wanting to do the work.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people who want to go from 0 to 60 without putting in all of the blood, sweat, and tears. And there's no shortcut. You have to be able to focus and do the work. And I always feel like I'm telling people to floss their teeth, but really it's learning by doing, and you can sit and talk about it all day long and all of that, but it's the sitting down and doing sessions for yourself and putting in the work. That's where you're going to have all the very cool experiences.
Okay, guys, we're running at 2.5 hours at the moment. Has anyone got any last few questions or comments they want to ask Pam or John?
Just want to say you've done great work with the site, you guys, and thank you for keeping Irva going.
Thank you, Tamara.
Yeah, I agree on that. I have been a bit problematic for Irva in the past. I've had my my negative comments about and I have been a member over the last 20 years, on and off over periods of time. But I do think that there have been some very friendly and serious changes over the last few years, which make it better, in my opinion. So, I joined back up again and I'm enjoying the resources. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, then. So I guess. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say what I think you guys are doing is incredibly admirable. I don't even think you realize how incredibly cool you are to put yourselves out there like this and give this to people. What you're giving is, people don't even realize the importance of it now. So I just want to say that thank you for doing this and putting yourselves out there like this.
Thanks for that, Rose. And thank you, John and Pam, for giving your time up for us, and for everyone else that came along tonight to ask the questions as well. It's been a really interesting talk.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and just as we said, just reach out to us if you want us to help in any way at all. As a community, we're there for you guys. Excellent. Well, we'll leave it there then. Thanks, guys, for all coming. And next week it's Gail Husick and Alexis Champion talking about their RV businesses. So that'll be a really good talk as well. Excellent.
Thank you, Des.
Thanks for coming. I'm going to close this now. You'll have a good weekend, and I should see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.